Yes, guys, how you doing? Welcome back to the Spurs Talk Show. How are you? I hope you're all happy and healthy doing the things you love, for those you love to do them with. Interesting stories out last night, weren't there, eh? Interesting. They're interesting. And we've got, what's going on with my thing? Driving up the bloody wall. Forgive me. Guys, I hope you're all capable, happy and healthy, and capable of doing me a couple of favors or two. Smash the like button if you don't mind. Hit the subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the notification bell. Drop a comment. Someone drop a comment. I can't see any comments on my screen. Is there any comments coming in? There's a comment. What's crack-a-lacking? Afternoon, everybody. What's going on, people? Usually there's a couple of comments before we get going. It always gives me a little bit of the EBGBs if there's no comments, because you never know, do you? You know, hacker's going to hack and agenda's going to agenda and all that sort of stuff. Guys, listen, massive story out last night with my man. Well, I didn't know who he was till yesterday, but now he's my potential DJ, my DJ, ex-DJ, ex-NASA guy, now tech bro. Got a lot of money. Got a lot of successful ins and outs, entries and exits. A bit like Bonnie Blue, but a different version. And he wants to take over Tottenham. And believe it or not, he's already sort of validated the story this morning by being on Instagram and taking a picture of the Sun article and saying, you know, it's an ordinary day or quiet start to the morning or something. Words to that effect. My crypto, says Sarah G. My crypto. Yeah, look, guys, it's... I've done a bit of homework, Jess. I've done a little bit of homework for you. Got a little bit of speculation as to who the NFL and the NBA people might be, but it is speculation. They're not known, or they're not named, rather. I'll tell you one thing I can tell you is that that RND, what's it called again? Hang on a second. RN. I'll get it up in a minute. The guy that the company that he owns. I looked up his company online. His website doesn't really work. Don't work at all, if I'm honest. So for a tech guy, what was it called? The Rad Eaters or the Rad Bears or something. So like basically, I mean, a lot of those things are essentially scammy, aren't they? You know, a little bit of rug pulling. I'm not suggesting that's the case with him. I'm not saying that at all. But certainly the website that used to be RND, what's it called again? Let me find it. On my history. Did I go to it yesterday? I went to, would have been last night, wouldn't it? I'll find it in a minute. I'll find it during the stream. Very strange. We've also got to talk about the Tottenham Hotspur Supporters Trust as well. They've done they've had their annual survey. We got the results of that. You know, how do you feel about the owners? Which owners? New owners? Current owners? Old owners? How do they feel about the season tickets? How do they feel about the away access to the away games? It's an absolute disgrace, isn't it? The old away ticket, the way that people hoard those tickets and they make out that they've got the new technology to fix it all, but they don't. By the way, did you guys see that story on the BBC? Buying tickets off of those ticket tout websites. Well, probably not going to work in the future because, at least in clubs that they're actually pretty good with technology, like Brighton is. There was some poor guy who flew over from South Korea. He spent a fortune on his flights, come over to see Tottenham play against Brighton, his beloved Tottenham, even though no Sonny anymore. He obviously fell in love with Tottenham along the path. And he gets all the way to Brighton, and his ticket's confiscated because he bought it off of a website and the QR code, or what, I don't know, however they do it. It didn't work. And apparently this technology is getting rolled out everywhere. They're trying to clamp down on, they're saying it's to cut out fraud. It's really not, is it? It's just to make sure that, I guess, that there's a fairer distribution and to make sure that all the money that is available stays within the football club rather than going out to these people that use technology and AI software, whatever, just to hoover up whatever tickets are available, however quickly they can. Redacted RND. That's it, my man. Well done, Robert Bullmore. Let me show you the URL. All right, you're a tech guy. And this is what happens when you go to redacted RND. 404 not found. Code deployment not found. This deployment cannot be found. I don't know if I should be going to redacted RND if that's what we're getting. Don't know what we're doing here. But anyway, interesting story, right? Interesting story. For those of you that have been sleeping under a rock for the last, in fact, let me just come and say to a few people. All right, Shawnee Boy says, Patch, good to see you. Roy, good to see you. Johnny Boy, good to see you. Jezza T, thank God it's Friday. Happy Friday to you. Philip Wright, afternoon, my man. Sarah G, morning to you. Eric E, big up, Shawnee. I do think we were trolled last night. You think we were trolled? Maybe. But the guy who put the story out, he knows people. He's like Martin Lipton is proper old school Tottenham journo. So he knows a thing or two. I doubt he put it out there, and he was talking about it. I know it's obviously an exclusive for him. No, it's definitely an exclusive for him. But the club or Football London have come out with a story basically saying that the club haven't responded, but the stance is a maintenance of the not for sale. How would you feel about your chair people in a world where they turned down a bid that included a promise of £1.2 billion worth of money for transfers, wages, all those sorts of things? And by the way, that number is like spun into a proper yarn, right? Like it's not £1.2 billion that suddenly sits on the cash accounts and then can be dropped into spending in January. We can't just go and buy 10, 100 or 1,200 million pound players. That's not how it works, right? First and foremost, the money would come in. So like the 3.3 billion would go to the owners, right? And then obviously paying off the minority shareholders. It's not clear. This is on the presumption, by the way. This is on the presumption that the story is legit and that it was accepted. It hasn't been made clear whether that 3.3 billion of the 4.5 billion is just for ENIC. It doesn't suggest or tell anything about what happens to the debt. It also doesn't give you any indication of what happens to the micro shareholders, which between them, I think is it 13.8%? So about 500 million quid's worth of payment has to go to those people in that world. People like Lubo, maybe a couple of you people that are watching. It doesn't say any of the details around how that is that 3.3 billion just to ENIC. Does it pay off the debt that ENIC have as well? Is it like 2.5 billion to them or whatever, and then 800 million goes to paying off the debt? None of that is clear. But let's just say, for example, let's just give an example that the 3.3 billion is accepted, and it does just go straight to ENIC and pays off the minority shareholders and pays off the debt. And then Tottenham Hotspur are in a new person's ownership with no debt and with no other shareholders. Then what happens with that £1.2 billion? It's essentially the same thing as what Todd Boehly has, where it's just capital that gets put onto the books as cash flow, liquidity, to be able to do things that you want to do. But it doesn't mean that you can't, like, you can spend that as much of that money as you want. You can spend as much of that money as you want on infrastructure, women's teams, all the other things, right? The property, the hotels, casino, whatever, all that stuff. You can do as much of that as you want, and that doesn't affect your ability to. That doesn't affect in any way your ability to do the PSR thing. But the PSR rules don't change. The PSR rules do not. It just counts as new investor capital, right? Which is like new money coming in that can sit on the books and can be used to pay for things. So if there was truth, I guess you could make the assumption that to a degree, Matt Law had a point throughout the year when he was saying that liquidity is the issue at Tottenham. Because look, we've taken 2 players on loan, right? And we didn't end up paying a £17 million. I'm guessing we were trying to. So you'd hope that there's money available in January, regardless, that was allocated towards either an Eze or towards a Mark Gahey if you go back to January, or obviously Savinho, right? And Savinho last night, I think he's just signed a new contract at Manchester City, so we can forget about that, unless there's an outside chance that it's just signing to commit and then you can move him on later. But I'm surprised that he's signing a new contract when he was willing to leave a couple of weeks ago or a month ago, and then at the same time is only concerned about the World Cup minutes, and he hasn't really had any yet, or very little. But either way, you can really basically chalk him off the list now for all intents and purposes. We'll move on to the transfer things later on. But in terms of that 1.2 billion, this is, again, hypothetical, assuming that it was done. It's not going to be done, by the way, according to the reports from Ali Golden this morning that are saying that Tottenham's stance is rejection anyway. So, but we'll just play the thought experiment here. So that 1.2 billion can come on. As much of that wants to go towards infrastructure spend and all those other things, it can go to it. It can go to the hotel, can go to the white webs, can do all that stuff. But for whatever's left, that will be put into blueprint 3.0 to build an unbelievable team that's not just, not just challengers, but contenders or something like that, whatever he said, whatever the blueprint said. Well, you still got to work to the PSR rules. And obviously PSR rules, as a reminder, right? Depending on what you're talking about, there's one set of rules for the Premier League. £105 million losses are allowed, but Tottenham are nowhere near that. So essentially what that works is just that cash works as a liquidity amplifier to be able to allow you to go and spend money if you now have ambition to get closer to those thresholds. And 42% or whatever it was at the last set of accounts that we saw, it's probably likely less than that now, at least for last year's accounts, that we won't have seen the numbers for yet. Next year, it might be going up again because we obviously just increased the wages of Romero. We've signed Polinia. We've signed Kolo Muani, or at least loaned him, and also obviously Xavi Simons, all of whom are going to be at the top end of the kind of the salary bracket, right? So those things won't be reflected until 2027 when we get to see them, at least. But for last year's numbers, the ratio has gone down. So if there was truth to this guy wanting to come in and be ahead of the curve for the January transfer window, it all seems very, I don't know, just seems a little bit kind of too bullish, too good to be true. Like the story comes out of nowhere and then he wants it cleared up in a couple of weeks. These things don't take a couple of weeks. If this guy hasn't been a part of the conversation for the last several months, there's no chance that it's just, look, can I write you a check for an offer that you can't refuse before I've even had a chance to look through your accounts? Don't forget, right? Like generally speaking, takeover rules and intentions to make an offer that happen during takeover periods, people are allowed to sign NDAs and then take a look through books, right? And see if all of the numbers that are out there in the world of like the Deloitte who make assumptions, if they all actually stack up, if they all actually end up, if the ducks all align as you thought they would. And there's so many situations and examples of takeovers that happen or IPOs that happen in the stock market on the New York Stock Exchange, the NASDAQ, where when certain things, when there's either aggravated injections or hostile takeovers, all of these sorts of things, where they start to gobble up enough shares to be able to sit there and say, I might be making a takeover attempt here. I need to see your books. And then they look through the books and nothing makes sense. And I'll tell you one example, the biggest one was Twitter. When Elon Musk was taking over Twitter and he put in the bid, and then he got to look through the books, and the books basically showed a hell of a lot of fraudulent accounts, a lot of double baking on the revenue, a load of absolute waffle in what was presented as fact that hadn't been audited correctly to what he actually saw when he looked under the hood. And he tried to pull out of the deal to buy Twitter. And then the lawyers came in and said, no, you've made an irrevocable offer. Like you have to. You unfortunately buyer beware. So these things happen at the highest end of the game. I'm getting off topic. Another example, by the way, would have been that guy who was selling hydrogen-fueled trucks. So like the Tesla of trucks, but hydrogen. And he was doing an IPO, I believe. And so I don't know why I'm telling you this story, but just to show you that like there's a reason why people go into takeover periods. It's so that you can look underneath the hood and see the accounts as well to make sure that what you think you're paying for is what you're going to get. So this notion that this guy, Brooklyn Eric would just sit there and go, look, I want to get this wrapped up in a couple of weeks. Here's $4.5 billion. Shut up and go away. Let's sign the deal. It doesn't work that way. Which is why I think the story's a little bit silly. But listen, we're streaming now. Content's got a content, so we'll carry on with the story. Let me know if I'm boring you with any of these little tales, right? But there's another story about. I'll come and say hello to the chat in a minute. I'll get back to the chat. There was this guy. What was his name? The hydrogen. I think he's in prison now. Hydrogen fuel truck. fraud. What was it? What was his name? Yeah, the company was called Nicola Corporation, and its founder, Trevor Milton, who was convicted of defrauding investors by making exaggerated and false claims about the company's technology, business, and capabilities, including deceptively portraying a prototype vehicle. Right, so check this out. This guy, young guy, right, Trevor Milton, he's trying to present the efficiencies of a truck that's got a full load of merchandise or whatever, goods on the back. And he's saying, you know, screw petrol, screw diesel, screw electric, hydrogen's the way. And his proof was essentially showing the odometer, the kind of speedo, if you like, and and all of the kind of efficiencies of the performance of this vehicle on a flat road, and showing how little hydrogen it was burning versus the speed and the distance traveled. And everybody was like, holy shit, this guy's invented like the next paradigm of logistics. And what he'd done, he was presenting this road as a flat road, but it was actually a hill. And he just turned the camera. He tilted the camera counterclockwise to the hill. So rather than it being downhill, it looked like it was flat. And so that the performance was benefiting from all of the gravity that was helping it go as fast as it could. Anyway, so I'm getting miles off topic. But he went. I think he went to prison. Did he go to prison? Let's have a look. Consequences: criminal conviction. He was found guilty of 3 counts of criminal fraud and securities fraud. He was sentenced to prison in December 2023. Nicola Corporation agreed to pay 125 million to the Securities and Exchange Commission to resolve charges of defrauding investors. I don't know how long how long has he spent in prison though? I'm not sure. Anyway, I'll come back to that story later if I need to. Anyway, so my point being about all of that, guys, is that takeover periods and due diligence processes are there for both sides, right? To make sure that people can't just be ruining your ability to do your job. Competitors getting people to essentially make suggestions of an offer which is going to be disruptive to your ability to do your job. It's going to create a little bit of uncertainty amongst your board, amongst your staff, amongst your customers, or whatever, in any walk of life. So essentially, if there's murmurs of those things happening, or if there's expressions of interest, they have to be disclosed, and then they have 28 days to put up or shut up so that everyone knows where the truth lies. Otherwise, you just have a perennial period of uncertainty that can be manipulated by people with agendas. This guy is doing this sort of thing apparently within a takeover period that's affecting for 2 other people, for Staley's PCP Capital Finance and for Firehawk Holdings, right? And what's interesting is that this guy's work has taken him into Monaco, into tech startups and sport ventures via Monaco. And don't forget, the Monaco Football Club is owned by a guy called Roboloblov. Roboloblov? I think it's got a really weird name. And what's it? Monaco owner's name is Dmitry Rybolovlev. There you go. And he is really close with Amanda Staveley. And look, Monaco's a small place, right? So if you've got startup tech ventures and things in that place, he's an oligarch. They're going to know each other. Staveley's good friends with his wife, and her husband is good friends with him. And so it's just a little bit odd, right, that this guy's coming out of nowhere with a potential consortium of 12 different people. Some of them are allegedly being from NBA and NFL backgrounds, which we'll talk about in a minute. And then also at the same time, tech finance, investment, private equity, and a lot of his work happens to be in Singapore and in Hong Kong and in Monaco. And Monaco is a very small world where Amanda Staveley that does a lot of her business out of, apparently, allegedly, or at least her husband does, and he's friends with Roboloblov. Sport Ventures, he's got this business not just in that R&D, redacted R&D, but he's got lots of other things in that other company that I will talk about. I'm going to get my notes back up here. The company is called. I spoke about this yesterday. Something. Where is it? Algorith Capital. There you go. He's a key investor in Algorith Capital, a venture fund that is targeting artificial intelligence, fintech, emerging startups based in Singapore with ties to Hong Kong. And, you know, that guy from Firehawk Holdings, Dr. Roger Kennedy and Phi&G, what his name was, Phi&G, I think that, I don't know how you say that last bit of his name. Here's Robert Lobolov. Ruba Blovkov. Yeah. So look, there's a little bit of there's a lot of overlap here. But then again, I'm probably just putting two and two together, and I'm 100% getting like a number that's not accurate. But it's a small world. Fintech is a small world. Private equity is a small world. It's a tangled web. Think back to, I mean, we spoke about Clearlake Capital, right? Clearlake Capital that own half of Chelsea, give or take. And then one of their investors, their chief investors, is obviously the PIF fund. They were invested in Clearlake Capital before they took over Newcastle, for what it's worth. But PIF fund have got dozens and dozens, hundreds of different investments, and other things invest into the PIF fund via the Saudi companies. If you can invest in the Saudi companies, if they then get their taxes go into the PIF fund, yada yada yada, right? So you see the kind of overlap of and web of confusion. On top of that, go back to, I think it was 777 Partners that were, and it was MCP Capital. I forget which one of the two it was that had 100 million quid on the line when Everton was about to go bust because of what was that guy? Mashiri's chaos, until Friedkin Group came in and bailed out the £100 million thing. I think it was MCP Capital. Well, those guys are a massive MCO, multi-club ownership model, but they've got hella investments in loads of different things, and they were essentially robbing Peter to pay Paul. A little bit like what, and forgive me if I'm getting off the topic here, but this is just a wild sort of rant about the kind of complexities of all of these different things. A little bit like what John Textor was doing with Lyon. He took money out of Lyon to pay for players for Botafogo. I think he took 90 million quid. If I'm not mistaken, it was 90 million out of Lyon to give money to Botafogo so that they could buy players to help them win the Copa Libertadores. And they did. So I'm sure Lyon fans are like, oh, well done, our second club. But MCP Capital or 777 Partners, I forget which one it was, they were caught up in massive robbing Peter to pay Paul scandals where essentially there was no money and they were just moving money around on a bit of paper to make themselves look like they had access to significant amounts of more liquidity than they did. Whenever someone was looking over there, they would put money over there, but they would take it from over here. And then as soon as someone else would go, well, how's that thing doing? They'd move the money back over here, or they'd take money from somewhere else. And so they were presenting themselves as an organization with billions and billions and billions of money in assets. But in reality, they didn't. They had a lot less than that. And they were just moving the money around whenever someone was getting audited, cleverly, to make out like they were more liquid and more, more competent in regards money and the capacity to pay their bills, etc., than they actually were. And my point being about that story, God, sometimes I need someone else on the stream to have some structure. You see how my mind works. I swear I'm undiagnosed ADHD. So the reason why I brought up that story is because when I looked into that last summer or summer before might have been the start of last summer, there were loads of companies that were going to be loads and loads and loads. It was almost like a mini micro banking crisis, like the great financial crisis of 2008, where you pull that loose thread on the entire ecosystem, and the whole house of cards comes tumbling down because everybody's throwing money into one direction, and then some of it's coming back. And it's the same with MCP Capital, same with 777, same with Clearlake. So my point of all of that is that if this guy is involved in all of those different ventures in those parts of the world, there's probably not too much of a stretch to say that maybe, just maybe, there's overlap into those other people that have already expressed an interest, Staveley or Firehawk Holdings, of which we still haven't heard anything from Roger Kennedy or the other guy, Phi&G. It's ing, is it? DB, appreciate that. Fying. Anyway, let's go. I was going to talk about the Football London response in a second. Let's come back. Sorry for the wild journey of my mind. Gary Woodbridge saying ADHD and the rest. Listen, mate, you know. Yeah, the rest. The rest is the rest. Let me know what else you think's wrong with me, Gary. Let me know what else is wrong with me, mate. Can't get a doctor's appointment to figure it out, though, can you? So that's why I turn to alcohol and God knows what else. Get me a beer, a brass, and a something else, and I'll be okay. Self-medication. Geek Jinx is in the house. Timothy Whitaker saying Milenkovic, Savic, and Ruben Neves contracts expiring. Apparently, would love both at Spurs if we have some investment incoming. Need to increase our wage structure for the best. If we have some investment coming, that's the other thing, right? Like, so I never got off the topic. You know what? I'll come say to some people first, and I'll come back. Hi, Sean. Do you think this take over? Do I think this takeover is what? Do I think it's legit? I think there might be some interest, but Tottenham Hotspur don't seem to be making. I'll come to the reaction in a minute. I'll come to it in a second. Sean has caught some mispronouncing bug from Johnny. Who have I mispronounced? Is it Ing? Fying? The old 12-year-old boys joke about the East European man with 3 balls. Udogie Bolikov. Yeah, we like that. Absolutely love that. Yeah, his name is Robert Lobolov. Here you go. Dmitry Rybolovlev. Rybolovlev. Listen, it's not a bad attempt. I think most people get that name wrong probably first time. Sell, says Ali D. Spurs are for the sea. Or Spurs are for sale. So he just rolled a truck down the hill. But yeah, basically, mate, this was hilarious. It was hilarious, Daniel. And by the way, there were billions and billions of dollars getting pumped into this company pre-IPO. Billions. He pulled the wool over everybody's eyes. Because nobody thought it would be like, nobody thought anyone would be as audacious as just to pick a hill where there's no trees in the background. There's nothing in the background apart from a desert. So you wouldn't be able to tell when you turn the camera and a tree is leaning like that. But basically, yeah, he rolled a truck down the hill with the engine on, going a bit faster than you would otherwise do, and cooked the books. These things happen. Where there is money, there is muck, as they say. But where there is muck, there is money as well. Talking about the Nicola Tesla trucks. Yeah, 100% Geek Jinx. Yeah. Do you know the story, yeah? Wild, mate. Wild. I still want to know. I want to know how long did he get in prison for? Tyler, what's his name? Trevor Milton. Trevor Milton, prison sentence. Prison time. Here we go. How long did he get? He was sentenced to 4 years in prison in December for 2020 for defrauding investors, convicting of securities and wire fraud after a jury found he made false statements about the technology and products. Oh, he was pardoned by Donald Trump. What the hell? He was pardoned earlier this year. Oh, what are we doing? What are we doing here? He was pardoned by Donald Trump. Gee whiz. I mean, that just takes the biscuit, doesn't it? You know? Let's do a couple of super chats anyway. Houdini's in the house. Big up to you, Dean Law. Always, you know, you don't do the disappearing act like Houdini does, mate. You do the appearing act every single time. Super sticker fences. We love you for it, mate. We love you for it. Thank you very much, Dean. I hope you're okay, mate. Looking forward to meeting you on Saturday, buddy. Looking forward to that. Tony Rodriguez become a new member for the 19th time. Big up to you, Tony. I appreciate you very much, my man. You know, you have a little bit of Sean, then you go, I'm going to give Sean a break for a while. And then you go, I'll go and come back to Sean. I'll come back to Sean for a little while. That guy, he's horrible, but he still banks on about Levy. Fucking, you know what? Sean's all right. Let's go and support him again. I appreciate you, Tony, very much, mate. I hope you're okay, buddy. I hope Sweden's treating you well, boss. Hark, Levy, I love thee, and I miss thee sore. Our Tottenham bring back, I implore. Know this, Levy shall win It is ever so. Fate shall see through. Hey, user, first of all, thank you very much for the super chat. Did you ask ChatGPT to give you a Shakespeare version of I Want My Levy Back? Is that what they threw up? I like the creativity, my man. I like the creativity. Hark thee, Levy. I love thee. I love him too. I miss him. Gee whiz, couple of monster super chats coming as well. Thank you very much, hey, user boy. Thank you very much, Mashing a Joe. My man, Joe, I think he's out in Pattaya. Evertonian fan. My kind of guy, by the way. My kind of guy. Loves an absolute, loves a hedonistic lifestyle. Loves a beer. I think he sent me a picture. Maybe I shouldn't be saying this. He sent me a picture of him slamming back shots of tequila for breakfast with his girlfriend on holiday in Thailand. I'm not sure if he's on holiday or if he lives there. I don't know, but my kind of geezer, like proper Croatian Australian. Big up to you, Joe. Appreciate you, mate. Thank you very much for the support, mate. As always, absolute legend. And Blaine is in the house as well. Not to be outdone. Absolute unit of a Tottenham fan. This man is Blaine. Thank you so much, mate. What a guy you are. Shameless super chat. Shameless big up. Not shameless, mate. It's not shameless at all. It's an absolute legendary thing, mate. Listen, at this time of year, September, like August, June, July, August, this channel did the best numbers it's ever done. I think we did something like, was it like 1.5 million views in 1 month, 2 million, nearly 2 million views in August or something, and then September comes around and it drops off pretty badly. Everything disappears. No one cares in September. It's such a weird thing that the fan base cares more about what's happening at Tottenham when Tottenham aren't playing football than they do when they are. Or maybe that's just my channel, but I think it's shared with everybody else as well. So thank you very much. Thank you so much, Blaine. Very cool, mate. These sorts of things really help at the time for the timing. And look who else there is. Levy leading the consortium. Big up, Sean. Smash the like and subscribe, chat, mate. Wouldn't that be awesome, Drew? Wouldn't that be awesome? I was asking Lubo this in a back room stream after a stream the other day. I said, would you take Levy back as chairman if it came with the Sultan of Brunei writing checks, essentially endless ambition from the owner and Daniel Levy's money not being the person, not essentially being affected by it. But he has to be the chairman. And Lupo said no. His hatred of Daniel Levy is all-encompassing. It's all-encompassing. So I think that'd be hilarious. I'd love to see what the fan base did if they went, Daniel Levy is going to be brought back in as chairman. It's like a wrestling script, isn't it, from the WWE if that happened. Vince McMahon comes back in or whoever, I don't know wrestling that well, but somebody comes back in with an absolute mic drop. Afternoon, Logan. Big up to you, my man. Appreciate you, by the way, Drew, for your ongoing loyalty, mate. Thank you very much for your ongoing loyalty. By the way, I need to message you. I don't know if you fancy doing one tonight, but if you did, Drew, we can do the old fan phoning show. If you fancy doing it, let me know. But I'll message you about it. Afternoon, you saw the football last season. Of course, you'd care more about off the pitch. Yeah, true. I'm a big no to Levy ever coming back to this club. Yeah, let's do 8 p.m. Sounds good to me, mate. Sounds super good to me. Fan show tonight. The fan show is on, people. The fan show is on. We'll talk about this. We're talking about the takeover. 1 second, just got to blow my nose. 1 second, guys. Back in the game. Proper. How many accents are we going to get cancelled for tonight? Drew, I need you to Here's what I want you to do. I want you to seamlessly transition, organically, of course, in the same paragraph. And there's 2 accents, which I think it's an easier transition than you might imagine, Drew. I think you can transition from Welsh into an Indian accent and maybe back to Welsh again. I had a friend growing up at school. It was his party trick. He would talk about cricket and football or rugby and cricket, and he would talk in a Welsh accent, a South Walian accent, and then transition into Indian and then back to Welsh, and you almost wouldn't notice it, but it was absolutely spot on. So if you can do that, my man, proper, absolutely proper. Let's go, people. Let's go. Right. Thank you very much for those super chats, everyone. Please also do smash the like button if you haven't already. We appreciate you. 500 people in the house. We love to see it. Let's talk a little bit about this reaction. I'm going to close that down. Let's get off this. Share this tab instead. Okay, so Tottenham. This is from Ali Gold this morning. Tottenham Hotspur's owners have maintained. Is it on the screen? Yeah, buddy. Tottenham owners have maintained their stance that the North London club is not for sale amid reports that a US consortium has launched a record 4.5 billion takeover bid. A report in The Sun. Oh, they haven't linked to The Sun, though. They haven't linked to the report. That's nasty, bad etiquette. Suggested that tech entrepreneur Brooklyn Eric is heading up a consortium that has made an approach to buy the club just weeks after Spurs owners in ENIC rejected 2 informal approaches to bid for their majority share of the Premier League outfit. Eric, who failed this year in a bid to acquire Formula E team Maserati, is reportedly fronting a 3.3 billion takeover bid from a 12-strong group, including NFL and NBA investors. I've got some insights on that as well in a second. With a further 1.2 billion set aside as transfer funds for their head coach Thomas Frank. That total package would top Todd Boehly's takeover of Chelsea of 4.25 billion in 2022. However, sources close to the Lewis family who run Tavistock, the company behind it, told Football London that their stance has not changed and that Tottenham is still not for sale. The family are also believed to have received no bid from Eric's consortium or expression of interest at this point. ENIC owns 87% of the Lily Whites, but due to the remaining shares being publicly traded, the club is beholden to the UK Takeover Code that states that any expression of interest or bid must be lodged with the Takeover Code panel and made public, which has not been the case at this point. It remains to be seen whether ENIC's stance would waver if a bid were actually to be made, especially if it was north of the club's valuation. The current reports come during a period of huge change, yada, yada, yada. Siblings Vivian and Charles Lewis have been in the director's box yet, don't care about that. Earlier this month, an Asian consortium of investors led by Roger Kennedy and Wing Fai Ying, through Firehawks Holdings Limited, indicated an informal intention to make a Spurs offer the day Levy left his role. Amanda Stabley and PCB Capital are also believed to have shown enough interest without making an actual indication of a forthcoming bid, all of which triggered takeover panel rules on disclosure. PCP later made it clear that they would not be making an offer, and in a statement triggered by the takeover interest, Spurs confirmed at the time that ENIC had received and unequivocally rejected separate preliminary expressions of interest to acquire their entire stake in the club. They stated then the board of the club and ENIC confirmed that Tottenham Hotspur is not for sale, and ENIC has no intention to accept any such offer to acquire its interest in the club. Vinay said, there's been a lot of newspaper articles and a lot of media spec around the takeover, so I can be really clear on this. So the Lewis family are really clear. They see their involvement in Tottenham Hotspur being long-term, and they see their involvement continuing through the generations. We made a statement very late last night, and the statement, I hope, was unambiguously clear that Tottenham Hotspur is not for sale. The report of Eric's approach also mentions a £250 million stadium naming rights deal having been lined up by the consortium, although that figure would be at the lower end of such deals unless it is only a relatively short-term contract. Well, it's not really. £25 million a year for 10 years is exactly what Tottenham have always wanted. It would be the biggest apart from this new one that the Etihad are going to do, which is wild and massively over the top. It would still be the second biggest in the UK. And I think it would be the third biggest I'm pretty sure the Barcelona Spotify deal is just below it, but I think the Real Madrid deal that's coming is going to be above it. Turkish deals are pretty good. A couple of good deals in Germany, but nothing like £25 million a year, generally speaking. But those stadiums aren't used every other other day, like Tottenham seems to be in the summer. We have 17 uses of that stadium in the summer. You know, there's madness. The Staples Center in Los Angeles, the home of the NBA teams, the Lakers and the Clippers, they got Crypto.com for $565 million for a 20-year naming rights deal. Also in LA, the SoFi Stadium got a £504 million deal over 20 years. So that's basically 25 million and change and that's about 27 million and change, 28 million and change for the crypto.com dealer. And not much difference. But crypto.com, the arena, that arena gets used every day. And when they do basketball series there, they use like 5 in a week or something. So there's slightly different context that always gets left out when we talk about these things. Tottenham Hotspur's naming rights deal should be higher than everybody else's, because the stadium is used about 25 times a year more than everybody else's. So, so he's saying it's not on. He's saying that there's nothing official and there's nothing going on there. I want to pivot to something else which happened, but Blaine's just come in. Blaine's obviously got out of bed this morning feeling incredibly generous, and what a legend he is for doing so. He has just gifted 10 Spurs Talk Show memberships. You absolute little legend, Blaine. I love you, man. Thank you so much. Thank you to everybody who watches the show. I love you all. Like, you're a brilliant community. You're funny as hell in the chat. I think I've got the most humorous chat of all the chats in the community, in the Tottenham space at least. I don't know about other things, but I think you lot are the funniest. And so 10 more of you today can now join tonight's show with me and Drew. If you're coming, bring your accent game. But just be careful because you might get cancelled. Remember Eugene last Friday? He was poor Eugene. He didn't like it, did he? He's like, I'm gonna get out of here. How do I turn my camera off before I get absolutely cancelled? There's no way about that, mate. We're getting cancelled anyway. This channel's not for long. It's not around for a long time. Big up Billy. Big up Brian Jobson. Big up to you, mate. Love you as well, Daniel. Regards, Daniel. No hugging though. No hugs. No hugs, bro. No diddy. Where the funk is that setting? Where the funk is that setting? I'm not sure what that means. Yeah, appreciate Spurs Ninja. Yeah, guys, if you did receive a little bad boy from Blaine, say thank you to him, and I'm saying thank you very much on behalf of everybody. Blaine, you're an absolute legend. And yeah, guys, join at 8 p.m. tonight. Right, just cameras on. Go to the community section of the YouTube channel, the posts section, and you'll find the link in there for StreamYard. And first come, first served, depending on how many people turn up. Usually there's only like 4 or 5, and so we give them 20 minutes each. But if a lot of people come, you get 10 minutes each. You know how it works. Appreciate you all, though. Happy Friday to you, my man. Happy Friday to you, John. Good to see you, mate. Good to see you, Billy. Brooklyn is definitely better than Levy. Well, just wanted to quickly check on something, right? Because we were looking at this asset match a couple of days ago, if you remember. And yeah, look, it actually did go through. It did go through. The amount of shares went through. Look at this. Look at 335,000. There's definitely something going on, people. There is definitely something going on. If you remember, I did this. I showed you this the other day. Right? This is where the micro shareholders can get rid of their shares or buy some more shares if they want. And this is the last 10 auctions. And I said to you, look, it was slowly going up, right? This was the biggest one, was 25th of July, 2024. But look at the price, £3.22 per share. And it ended up being £1 million worth, 335,000 shares traded yesterday. 335,000 shares were bought by somebody. It was 2 buyers. There was like 5 or 6 sellers, and there were 2 buyers. Now, that might be the Ashcroft father and son. It might be Staveley and one of her lot. It could be Roger Kennedy. It's only £1 million worth. But, it's something going on. Something is going on. That's the biggest trade. That is the biggest individual auction since, let's say, January, March. So March of 2023 was the last time it was bigger. Nothing really happened after that, did it either, to be fair? But, oh, hang on. Wasn't that around the time of the £150 million cash injection as well? And remember, these shares are trading places at 756, a market cap of 756. Right? This is on the screen, isn't it? I'm showing this on the screen. So look, when you factor in how many shares are in issue, right? There are 234 million shares in issue, and they're trading hands at £3.22. Now, obviously, is that 800 million quid? That's the market cap based on the available shares? Is that just the 13%, or is that maybe I'm hang about? Let me figure this out in real time here. Would all the shares in issue, would they include the ones that are not necessarily Daniel? So 14%. That would be too much, wouldn't it? Or would it? What's 756 as a ratio? So if it was 10%, that would value the company at 10 billion, at 7 billion. At 15%, that would value the company at about 5 billion. No, okay, so that's not right. Yeah, so basically, it trades at a discount, and so all of those shares that are in issue are trading hands now at £3.22. But there's not going to be the other 86% of the shares in issue that are owned. Look at the chat, you bozo. Check the chat, Sean. Ooh. What's happened today? I can't get that up. Blame pause. How do I do that? I can't get it. Oh, is it official? (26th of September). Here we go. Here we go, people. Ooh-wee. Ooh-wee. Let's have a look-see. Not for release, publication, or distribution in whole or in part, directly or indirectly into any form of distribution. This announcement falling under the board of Tottenham Hotspur is aware of recent media speculation and confirms that its majority shareholder, Enix Sports Development, has received and unequivocally rejected an informal expression of interest in relation to a proposal to acquire the entire issued and to be issued share capital of the club from a consortium led by Mr. Brooklyn Eric. The board of the club and ENIC reconfirmed that Tottenham Hotspur is not for sale and ENIC is not looking to sell its stake in the club. In accordance with the obligation under Rule 2.6a of the City Code, the consortium is required by not later than 5 p.m. on October the 24th, 28 days, to either announce a firm intention to make an offer for the company in accordance with Rule 2.7 or announce that it does not intend to make an offer for the company, in which case such announcement will be treated to a statement as... in which case such announcement will be treated as a statement to which Rule 2.8 the City Code applies. The deadline can be extended with the consent of the panel on takeovers and mergers in accordance with Rule 2.6. They did receive the bid. It is legit, but it's been rejected. It's been rejected. So we know all this stuff. I've gone through this stuff before with you, right? Even if they start gobbling up minority shares, they still have to make other disclosures, dealing disclosures, like what happened with Andrew Ashcroft. Lord Ashcroft's son, Andrew Ashcroft, had to disclose that sort of thing. There's something going on, people. There is something going on. Why don't I have some only member content like Oso? I can do. No one's ever asked for anything. I never ask for memberships though. I never tell anyone to people join them. Like, I appreciate people that become a member for showing support. I give them the members' phone-in shows, but and I always pull up the members' chats. I don't. I've got 4 channels, mate. I've got 4 channels I've got to work on. Spurs 5, this, Sean Butler TV, which, by the way, is coming back with Conspiracy Corner is coming up this week. I think we're doing some conspiracy stuff. Oh, no, we're not doing it tonight now because we'll do it this weekend then. We'll do it on Sunday nights. Sunday nights, we're going to have Conspiracy Corner. I'm going to be going into the rabbit hole, the deep rabbit hole on this one. So it could be Richard Ashcroft, as he's a lucky man. What's your 500 shares worth, roughly? 500 shares times £2.33, mate. Or £3.22, sorry. So about 1,600 quid, something like that. 1,640 quid, something like that. Still a mental maths there. Let me know if that's correct. £3.22 times 500. 3.22 times 500. Oh, I said 1,640 at 1,610. Well, I wasn't far. I said 1,600, didn't I, originally? I was £10 off. Not bad, Maisie's Adventure. Still got it. Still got it. Thank you very much for putting that out there, Blaine. So they've turned it down. They've turned it down. HO1000, get Levynomics on. Someone who knows what he's talking about. I know what I'm talking about. I love Connor. I love Connor. But yeah, he's an accountant. I was an investment banking guy. So I know how these things work. Not that it's a listen. Oh, by the way, Nikos, your conspiracy, mate. Your flat Earth thing's in the mud, right? All those boys. I've been somehow flat Earth's got back into my feed, into my news feed, and turned out that they went down to Antarctica. Fuck it, I'm gonna have a cider. I'm having a cider. I don't care what you lot say. Getting called alcoholic by all these absolute morons and muppets in the community. They've got nothing better to do. I don't care. If it was a problem, I wouldn't do it. But you know what? Oh no! How's that? There's no cap on it. When's that? How long's that been open for? Okay, we're going to find out. We're going to find out. It might be flat as a pancake. Yeah, the donuts out there who think they get to me by saying all sorts of things. They don't. Anyway, let's carry on. Yeah, your flat Earth thing, mate. It's in the mud, isn't it? Because they went down to Antarctica and they saw the 24-hour sun. So. Absolutely not. Mate, what's Joe done? Joe's brought in an absolute worldie. I've got to go full screen for this. Absolute monster. Listen to the man. I'm Croatian. I love Israel. I live in Pattaya. I love girls. I hate Starmer. And the Croatians fight for fun. Joe, you're my kind of guy. You're my kind of guy. Listen. Politics aside, I'm not getting into the politics bit, but I like raw human beings, man. I like people that are just unequivocally themselves. It don't matter what sort of stance you are. If you're real and you're up for fun in life, you don't take life too seriously. If that happens to be with you, Joe, it happens to be that you like a fight and you like some pussy, as you say, then good for you, man. Good for you. You're my kind of guy. When I finally get back out to Australia, I am definitely coming to see you, mate. Not to fight you, just to have a beer with you, mate. To have a beer with you. Or you live in Pattaya? Listen, mate, if I went to Pattaya, I think I'd probably... I think if I ended up going there, I don't think I'd come home. The Spurs Talk Show would become a little bit more like that geezer, Danny Boy, 83838383 on Twitter and on Instagram. You know, the Brass Father, or whatever they call him. I think I've become a little bit like, mate, Joe, thank you so much for the super generosity, mate. That's delicious, man. It really, really does help. Thank you all. Thank you, everyone, for all your super generous stuff today. If he loves it that much, he should have spent it on a brass. I can't imagine brasses until he's got a girlfriend. I know he's got a girlfriend in Thailand, but I can't imagine brasses are that expensive in Thailand, are they? I don't know. Let's leave the politics out, guys. Let's leave the politics out of the chat, though, please. Ball, Ben, Bean Counter. Listen, I just want peace. I want peace in that area. Peace everywhere. I want everyone to stop piecing each other off all the time. The world is really screwed up at the moment. Everyone's going after everyone. Everyone's amped up on hate everywhere you look. Social media, in the Middle East, in Eastern Europe, in the UK, in Ireland, in America, in Australia. It's just every time you turn on the news, all you see is people that they're unwilling to just to take their own perception and remove perception from the mindset for a split second and look into perspective. Perception is just how you see it. Perspective, it's a little bit more open-mindedness. $100 buys you an army of brasses there. Fuck, I'm getting the first flight out then. Bugsy, you're on your own. Man the house for a little while. Okay, I gotta Gotta get myself on the plane. 1 second, guys. 1 second. Dear. So, Amanda Staveley or Brooklyn, who would you take? I don't know enough about this geezer, mate. I don't know enough about this Brooklyn geezer. I mean, look, he put in a bid. Obviously, the bid's legit. The money's legit. By the way, that's what I wanted to show you. I wanted to show you some of this. So I asked a few more questions around who it could be. Right. So the NBA franchise's owners, who could it be? Well, if you're looking for people that are putting some of the money, the Houston Rockets guy is a guy called Tillman Fertitta. Conveniently named Fertitta. He likes the girls too. So this guy, Houston Rockets owner Tillman Fertitta, he's a $9 billion casino / hospitality mogul, has flirted with soccer via MLS talks and global events, emphasizing experiential venues, which would be perfect for the Tottenham Stadium. His Landry's empire ties into Eric's Singapore tech networks. This is great. This is great insight here. At least I think it is, and I'm reading it for the first time. Right, so Landry's empire that he's into, it ties into everything that Eric's into in Singapore and his tech networks, and he doesn't have any Premier League exposure yet. His recent NBA sales, he sold the Celtics for $6.1 billion, free up capital for side bets like this. So I asked Grok, like, who it is, who could be the 13 people in the consortium, right? Who could be in the consortium? And he said, so the most likely one is the Houston Rockets geezer, Tillman Fertitta. The next guy is a guy called Steve Ballmer, who owns the Los Angeles Clippers. He's got a £130 billion Microsoft fortune. He already owns LAFC, which, funnily enough, obviously the Sonny just went to, and pours billions into arenas like the Intuit Dome. He's tech savvy as the ex-Microsoft CEO, so that aligns seamlessly with Eric's blockchain focus, and he's voiced interest in global sports portfolios, which baseball isn't, but football is. The Clippers' LA base could enable West Coast Premier League synergies. Plausibility for this one is medium to high. Bournemouth's scale makes him a franchise stakeholder fit, though he's very selective. And the third option, guys, from the New Orleans, from the NBA to figure out who these people are, is Gail Benson. Gail Benson has a $7 billion net wealth. He oversees a stable franchise and has quietly invested in entertainment like the Caesars Palace deals with untapped international ambitions. Oh, it's her Saints co-ownership. Gail Benson is a female. Okay, makes sense now you read it out like that. How assumptive of me to assume that people that have made fortunes are men. That's awful. Well, her Saints co-ownership adds NFL crossover potential. No soccer history, but rising female-led investments in the Premier League via groups like Palaces make her a fresh, under-the-radar pick. Plausibility apparently is medium, less flashy, but reports hint at diverse NBA ventures. She wants to do more in sports, but she wants to get out of NBA. Now let's look at the. Let me just double check. I've still got your attention here. What are we saying? What are we saying about those things? So huge scandal there for washing payments to one of his players. Who's that? Ballmer might have to get out of the Clippers. Says DB. Fair enough. It's not like we're not used to some sort of drama. Old Con Fabritici, after all. Huge scandal for washing payments to one of his players. Interesting. It kind of fits Tottenham. If the Lewis kids genuinely want sporting success and willing to put their money where their mouth is, why would we want new owners? Genuine question. I know what with their dad, they failed sporting success. What's interesting here, Brandon, right, is you have to. So think about the optics here. You've got 3 bids or 3 expressions of interest. One of them has put in an actual bid or an actual like an expression of interest or whatever that's been unequivocally rejected. We don't know the details of what was put in from Staveley's and her consortium or from Wing-Fi Ing's consortium. But if there's truth to this 4.3 billion, and better, by the way, fair play to the Sun, fair play to Martin Lipton to get ahead of Financial Times, Guardian, Telegraph, all those big boys that are usually more inclined to be the guys who drop the financial stories. Fair play to Martin Lipton. And it's an interesting one. It's really interesting. But if you're a Tottenham fan and this guy follows through with an actual offer, an actual bid rather, then for the owners, for the current owners to say, nah, not interested, we're rejecting it, even though it's miles higher than what any realistic valuation is, then do these owners not also run the risk and the gauntlet of pissing off the fan base when there's an obscene amount of money on the table for them to walk away with? They walk away with 3.3 billion, having paid what was it, like 70 million quid or something in 25 years? Obviously after the debt, so they get about 2.5 billion. Not bad. Although they get not all of that, they'd get about 80% of that, 87% of that, whatever. But like an unbelievable return. But if this particular story is suggesting that they were going to put 1.2 billion pound into the coffers that the fans care about, well, if these owners, these new owners, remember what we've been going through for the last month here, guys, right? The Lewis children trying to rebrand lipstick on a pig. I've been saying this to you since the day it happened, not in defense of Levy, in the defense of common sense and logic, that people are having the wool pulled over their eyes, that these people are like, from Ali Gold saying this, and I love Ali Gold, no disrespect to him at all. I'm just putting out a fact here, though. He's been writing the literature via the media, as has, and who else is pulling the line, pulling the rope, towing the line? Vinay's towing the line. Thomas Frank's towing the line. It's a very clear message. The new majority owners, as though they're not from the same, they're not cut from the same cloth. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree of Daddy Joe. And Daniel Levy, for some reason, has been sort of thrown under the bus. And by the way, I 100% acknowledge and concede that him being out of the way is an avenue to building new bridges with clubs where those bridges have been burned in the past. So I'm not in any way, sitting there saying that Daniel Levy was perfect. He wasn't. There was lots of things that were bad about him. But the story, the way that the narrative has been spun, that web, it's a load of waffle, right? But if these kids want to come in and pretend like all is good, like it's all new here, everything's good, don't worry, we got you. We want what the fans want, which is more success more often. And yet thus far, the only demonstration of it is a £90 million loan that anyone could take. It's just a payday loan. Borrow now, pay later from money that's guaranteed to come into your business. No demonstration of anything else yet. We don't know what the Ashcroft thing is. That's odd and that's weird, and we'll put that to one side. But if these kids want to come in and say, we got you, listen, it was him, it was the boogeyman, it was Daddy and Daniel, it wasn't us. We're here for the long road, then fine. All right, put up and shut up. But at the same time, this story drops, where you now have to compete with the expectations of what £1.2 billion worth of transfer kitty or club liquidity could offer. If you're going to sit there and then say, here's 100 million quid, we'll get ENIC to dilute minority shareholders at a slightly improved valuation on their own money, and put £100 million in, and that will keep them happy. They want cake, let them have cake. Let them eat cake, which is that's that narrative, right? It's what the French kings did, or the French queen did back in the day. Excuse me. Then, well, that wasn't going to be enough to satisfy me anyway, by the way. That wasn't going to touch the sides. But now you've got someone else that wants to put 1.2 billion. You might have, listen, I'm not saying that new owners are always better. Of course they're not. There's a lot of times it can go worse. But these people had money. They had ambition, and that blue point. Now that we know the story's real, then we can also take like what the other things that Martin Lipton said about Blue Point 3.0 or Tottenham 3.0 or what was it? Tottenham 2.0, the blueprint. Sorry, whatever the phrasing was. Well, we're going to go and buy monster players. And it wants to get it done in a couple of weeks. All of that stuff now is true. Right? An hour ago at the start of this show, I was saying, you know, like it's unusual, like it's a bit random to sit there. You want to go through the due diligence and that. It was 3.0, wasn't it, Geek Jinx? Yeah. You know? But this is what I'm saying. So now we know that the story was true because of this bad boy, because they have to do it. And thank God that there are minority shareholders. Otherwise, we wouldn't be any the wiser. By the way, this is the only time I'll ever say to Lubo, well done. It's well done, Lubo. Well done, Lubo. Hang on, someone's texting me. Hold up. So, yeah, having those minority shareholders means that you have to now let us know what's going on. And we might not have been any the wiser about these people coming in with 1.2 billion. So on that basis, thank God for the small shareholders that we're now aware, and we now have something to hold their feet to the fire to. If these new guys were going to put 1.2, and by the way, it wasn't 1.2 billion, like it wasn't 1.2 billion to go and spend on the likes of, you know, Lamine Yamal, like whatever, like none of that shit's true. It's obviously the money for all of it over any particular period of time, and you're still limited by your PSR, your FFP, and your squad cost ratio rules, all those things. But it obviously came in with some ambition, and they wanted to take it further. And if the answer is no, and the rejection is outright, unequivocally, we are saying no, then if the narrative that come from Vinay and from Thomas Frank and from Ali Gold, that the majority owners, the rebranding, that they want to, you know, they're going to back our club. We're all convinced they're going to back our club. If they thought they could get away with £100 million just before the January transfer window, nah, not anymore. There'll be meltdowns because now we know what the alternative is. The alternative was someone that was willing to pay 30% more than what the most exaggerated valuations of that company, of the football club, was ever going to be. And the Lewises are saying no. Well, you better put your hands in your pocket then. You better put in your hands, you better put in 500 million quid at least. Otherwise, there'll be meltdowns because we now have something to compare the ambition to. We now know there's at least three people, and one of them, we've seen the colour of their money, haven't we? We've seen it. 1.2 billion. Wowzers. Wowzers. 1 second, guys. 1 second. So now it's time to hold Enix's feet to the fire if they're saying no. But the other option is, of course, are they just saying no, but there's a conversation going on saying, look, 4.5 billion is not enough. If you're willing to come in at 4.5, we really need 5 billion. You know? We need 5 billion. And if we don't get 5 billion, then disappear. But at the same time, though, guys, you know, it's a very, very difficult thing to see how this one goes. Do you want these people coming in? Like, if this guy's gonna be the chairman, or would Vinay still be the CEO and doing all the day-to-day? And those guys are all just offshore, you know, doing their thing. And by the way, that 1.2 billion would come in either as a director's loan or would come in as an injection of capital into a zero interest, via zero interest rates. But I mean, Reese is saying first rule of negotiating is to never accept the first offer. I just think that the Lewises turning down all these expressions of interest, but we've seen the colour of their money, at least one of their money. We don't know what Staveley's group intended to be. We don't know anything about Roger Kennedy and Wing Fai Ying. Don't know anything about those guys. And like I say, maybe there's a little bit of overlap with the relativity, right? Anyway, I'm going to go and check out the the NFL likely people as well. It's a hostile takeover attempt, says James Richmond. Express bomber. What does that mean? Spurs Express. What's going on with Spurs Express? Okay, not sure what the bomber is. Spurs have now officially rejected an informal expression of interest from Brooklyn's Aerix consortium regarding a takeover. Yeah, we know that. Despite still having a stake in Tottenham, Daniel Levy has been barred from Hotspur Way since his departure from the club. The club returned any of his belongings still at the training ground to him via a van. Not even a car. Not even a truck. Vinay Venkatesham is assembling a new executive leadership team. Is this on the screen, by the way? Oh, I'm sorry, guys. Sorry, I'm not even showing you. Sorry. My bad. Sean, why did you remove my blue spanner? I didn't remove anything. You were a mod, weren't you, Lord Rodney Trottner? I don't know who's done that, mate. Dude, I don't touch any of those things. There's managing moderators that take care of all of that stuff. I'll put you, mate. Yeah, nothing to do with me. Nothing to do with me, mate. Don't take any offense. I'll go and put it back on. I don't know who's done that. Got no idea. Don't know who's done that. Where was I? Sorry about. Let me go back to the chat here. So Daniel Levy. So Daniel, listen. If that's true, and it's coming from the Athletic, by the way, if that's true, then doesn't that? I mean, finally, I have been vindicated. I told you there was nothing convivial about this. There was nothing convivial at all. But for what it's worth, Daniel Levy did the same treatment to Harry Kane. Harry Kane wasn't allowed back. When I left, I didn't even leave under bad terms, but I did kick up a fuss when I left the bank that I worked for, and they after I left, I left. I shook hands on everything on the departure deal, whatever, and then I left, and then I forgot like a little mascot that I had on my desk, and I went back in to try to get it, and the second that I'd left, the second the door shut, the entry card didn't work again. I never got that little git back. His little duck, he was a little duck that brought me good luck in my trades. Anyway, despite having so that's the Athletic one. Let's look at this one here. Is it on the screen? Am I on the screen? Yeah, it's on the screen. It weren't you, Rodders. You can't change user settings. I don't know. I don't know how this whole moderating thing works. I'll have a look. Someone somewhere has removed you. Then Rodney, I'll put you back in somehow. Vinay Venkatesham is assembling a new executive leadership team at Tottenham, which will consist of himself, Matthew Collicott, and what will eventually be six other senior figures. In what will eventually be including the newly appointed chief marketing officer and chief communication officer. We got the guy from Arsenal, and we got a girl from somewhere as well, didn't we? And then obviously there's that Catalina Kim as well, probably coming in. This is set to be the club's new model, designed to have power less centralized at the top. Well, you know what that sounds like, don't you? That sounds a little bit like decentralization. And what is decentralization in a technological form? That's called crypto. That's called blockchain. And who is the blockchain boss? Who is the guy that's around the ecosystem at the moment, sniffing for a little bit of investment? My man, my DJ, my potential new owner. So I'll get on board it. I love change. So I'm on board it. But I'll tell you what, if it doesn't happen, this is what I expect from you guys that are listening. If you're part of the Spurs Talk Show community, this is not in any way, shape, or form aimed at a defense of Daniel Levy. It's not in a defense of ENIC. It's not an attack on them. But what's good for the goose has to be good for the gander. And if these guys are just rejecting bids outright and at the same time trying to promote some message of like the majority owners want what the fans want. What the fans want is a better team that is capable of competing at the top more consistently. And you know what that takes? That takes money. It takes ambition, it takes money, and it takes guts. It takes risk. And if these guys that were going to buy in were going to put 1.2 billion quid of their own money in a separate fund that was going to be used for over a period of time to create liquidity and then to kind of push the boundaries a little bit more with regards to our risk appetite in the wage to turnover ratio, then if that sort of shit's being rejected, then the pressure has to be on the Lewises. It has to be on the Lewises. Has to be. So I expect all of you, like me, to be hard on making sure that whenever this injection of capital comes, if it's 100 million quid and it's diluting the minority shareholders, that's enough for a change for Tottenham protest. And I'll be there. I'll be championing that. I will be championing that 100%. Because this is like a line in the sand. And not knowing who these people are, they could end up being like the Glaziers, but they won't be because it's not a leveraged debt buyout. It's a cash buyout with 1.2 billion. If that's being rejected, the Lewises have to pony up. They have to, and they can if they want to. They can if they want to, or they can sail off in the sunset. But every time they're asking for more money, if they turn around and say 4.5 billion is not enough, but we will deal for 5 billion, then unless these people have got an endless bottomless pit of cash, that extra 500 million is probably going to come from the 1.2 billion fund that will be being put into the club. So, do you really want what you say you want, which is to see the same things materialize as the fans? We shall see. We shall see. Got a couple more super chats here. Shane Reynolds, member for 20 months, not for sale, but have ENIC announced a future plan? We haven't seen anything, mate. All we've seen is lip service. I was never ENIC out. But I cannot stand the way that this last month has been the narrative, the propaganda, the PR spin. And I don't like the fact that even Thomas Frank is getting on board it, speaking about these people like they're different, like they're new, like there's something changed. There hasn't. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. I never had a particular problem with it, but for those of you that did, do not get blinkered by this idea of new. There's nothing new yet. All there is to see right now is 3 different expressions of interest. 3 different groups are interested in taking Tottenham on. We didn't see the colour of their money for 2 of them, but one of them we have, and that is the sort of thing that shows ambition. 1.2 billion, which would actually work out more like 400 million quid as a transfer budget, and the rest would go into facilitations, maybe going into finishing off the ENIC project, the phase 3 of the Northumberland Park, get the hotel done, get the white webs done. If the NFL stuff is legit and that it takes a training ground, and then you've got these owners that want to come in, and they want to come in because they want the franchise. In fact, at this point, I'm just going to finish off the super chats. And then big up to you, Shane. Thank you very much, mate. Shane, member for 20 months, mate. What an unbelievable level of support you've shown. Thank you very much. A user back in says, "I love Levy." He loves Levy. I can't argue, mate. I miss the guy. I miss him. There's something about him. Love him or hate him. Something about him that I miss. And Daniel Phil's in the house. Big up to you, Daniel. I hope you are all happy and healthy doing the things that you love, my man. Appreciate you very much indeed. By the way, guys, at 2:00, we've got the Football Inc. I'm going over to talk to Johnny about all of this stuff as well at 2:00. So we're going to go for another half an hour, unless I want to end it more briefly, and then what we can do is I can just tell Johnny and see if he's around, and we can start the show about 15 minutes early, and then go at 1:45, for example. But I still want to go back and talk to you about. Thank you very much for the super sticker, Daniel. Thank you, A user. Thank you, Shane. And then once again, my man, thank you, Mashina, Joe, Rowan, Drew, Blaine, all you guys, absolute legends. Say Anthony as well, and Dini. But before we get any further, I want to go back to this other story, this other part of the game, right? So I wanted to show you who was it going to be. Think about what we're doing here. There we go. We got to look at so we've done the speculation over who the likely NBA franchise people could be. Tillman for Titter. Steve Ballmer, and Gail Benson, the female who owns New Orleans Pelicans. What about the NFL? This is where the most important, the most obvious things come. So, funnily enough, the name Tillman Fertitta pops back up again. Because not only is he... Oh, wait a minute. Sorry, no, done that one. Done the NBA. Sorry, they're mixing up. They're mixing and matching here. Here's the most likely NFL franchise owners. Dallas Cowboys, Jerry Jones, according to Grok, would say that he's got a $14 billion net worth, is the NFL's most aggressive globalizer, pushing for international series and even eyeing a London franchise. Now, I know the comments, I can't see the comments right now, but I know they're going to be lit up with people telling me that this guy's an absolute donut. He's the Daniel Levy of the NFL world because he doesn't win anything and he's super greedy and all this stuff. But I'm just going off of what information I've got here for you. Okay, it's all speculative anyway. But he's the most aggressive globalizer in NFL, pushing for international series and even eyeing a London franchise. He's publicly mused about soccer investments to tap emerging markets. And his media empire, the Cowboys Network, could amplify Eric's blockchain NFT ticketing plans. Oh, wait a minute. So non-fungible tokens, of course. For those of you who don't know what NFTs are, right? NFTs are, I mean, in the guise of crypto, they usually come in like some weird little GIF, some weird little graphic that's usually really pixelated and looks like, I don't know, like a duck or an angry goose or a chicken with a, bunch of different superhero shirts on, whatever. And you pay lots and lots of money depending on the popularity of these NFTs, and they go in and out of favor. But essentially, once you own that picture, then it's worth what it's worth in the open market, like anything else. It's like artwork, but digital art. But with NFTs, they're non-fungible, so they're used for different things, but they can't be replaced for other things. Like a fungibility is essentially saying that this empty bottle of cider is worth £3 in money. It's worth something else in some other format. It can be used for other things. Non-fungible tokens essentially are the opposite of things that can't just be transferred in value. They are used for the value themselves. Non-fungibility means that the transference of value isn't there. And so with that comes opportunities to do things with it. And I remember Gary Vaynerchuk, who was like a really big marketing influencer. He started his own NFT thing, and by owning one of those pictures or graphics or whatever, pixelated little stupid images, those things come with it, almost like a QR code that comes with other value. Like if you own one of those things, you always get a ticket. It's a recurring ticket to all of his future events, or it gets you first dibs, first access to future drops of air shipping drops of other projects in the crypto space. So the money that's caught in the value is not necessarily in the graphic itself; it's what that represents as a non-fungible token. And of course, one of the biggest problems in football right now, and I mentioned this right at the very start of the show, is tickets. So maybe, just maybe, he's got some ideas around what a season ticket can represent, right? What a ticket to a game can represent if it can hold some sort of inherent value that can be distributed in other ways later on that is non-fungible. So the owner has the value and you can sell the ticket, you can transfer the ticket, but within that ticket has other non-fungible items of value. Quite interesting. Now, let's get back to the story. So he was talking about Dallas Cowboys saying that the Cowboys network could amplify Eric's blockchain/NFT ticketing plans. No current Premier League stake, but he's attended Premier League matches and he has ties to tech via Amazon deals. Plausibility is high and it fits the NFL exec's descriptor in the reports, i.e., who are the other 13? Maybe Jerry Jones is one of them. New England Patriots owner Robert Kraft. Kraft's $11 billion net worth has dipped into soccer via a minority stake in an agency repping stars like Rafael Leao, and his son Josh leads the Kraft Group's international push. The Patriots' London Games history and Kraft's emphasis on global ecosystems. We're just doing globalization, aren't we? These are just new world order shills that happen to operate in sports. Mirror Eric's vision. No full Premier League ownership yet, making this a logical next step. The plausibility for him is medium to high. Kraft's low-profile style suits an unnamed consortium role. So he doesn't want to know what's going on. He just wants to put some money in and he'll offer some value somewhere. Philadelphia Eagles. How about Jeffrey Lurie? He's worth $4.5 billion. He has explored European sports. Eagles Frankfurt games, not sure what that means, and backs innovative ventures like fan engagement technology, aligning with Eric's app/blockchain roots. The Philadelphia sport market could benefit from Premier League crossovers, less vocal on soccer than Jerry Jones, but reports of NFL team owners' interest in Tottenham post-Levy point here. Plausibility is medium. He's quieter, but he does have the cash. So there you go, guys. As a speculative suggestion, some of those 13-person consortium that have clearly put in a bid for Tottenham Hotspur, well, some of them could be Jerry Jones, Robert Kraft, Jeffrey Lurie, and from the NBA, it could be Tillman Fertitta, Steve Ballmer, and Gail Benson, the female in the group. Very interesting stuff. Very, very interesting stuff. Let's get back to the chat and see what's going on. What happened to Amanda and her team? Well, they said they weren't going to get involved in a full takeover, Jamie. They said that they weren't interested in a full takeover. They walked away during their takeover period. It's amazing that there's two different takeover periods happening at the same time. Right, you've got two groups. You still haven't heard back from Roger Kennedy and Firehawk. They've got until October the 8th. That's October the 5th, rather, to confirm. And then this guy's got 28 days to get involved. Actually, Lord Roger Trotter says, actually, land is God, gold is king, cash is prime minister, and everything else is a liquidity trap. Yeah, until you can just create more land, which is part of the ecosystem of crypto, right? You know, or buying plots on the moon, or buying an acre of Mars, all that shit. You know, you can't create more land unless you can cultivate volcanoes, which, by the way, some people suggest is what's happening with HAARP, HAARP, and DARPA, who are the black ops budgets that are manipulating the weather, manipulating carbon, trying to create more land out in Hawaii and that by volcanoes that constantly pour lava into the sea and then grow more land. So land is God, 100%, but it's very scarce. It's very, very scarce. Have I sued the hippie yet? Sued the hippie? What, because he called me a fascist, a racist, and a drunk or something? Mate, those words have been so diluted by left-wing nutcases like him. You know, I got called anti-Semitic the other day. You know, it's a dangerous word to be throwing around. It's a dangerous word to be throwing around, especially when it's based on absolutely nothing at all, apart from someone's sensitivity to being criticised. You know, but these people, if I was to be bothered all the time by people saying shit about me, mate, I'd be crying in bed all the time. I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit about it. People can say what they want. It's a load of bollocks. I know me, and I know the person I am. So, yeah, we can talk for hours on that. What, hours on DARPA and HAARP, Daniel Field. Yeah, we can, mate. I'm going to be doing it on Sean Butler TV. I was going to do the first Sean Butler TV conspiracy, or the third Sean Butler conspiracy show tonight on Sean Butler TV, but I'm going to push it back to Sunday. Tomorrow I'm at the game. I could do it tomorrow morning, but is the morning game, is the morning kind of time, right time for conspiracies? Or is it more of an evening thing when everyone's having a couple of whiskeys and wants to dial into some wacky, wacky thought processes on the world? Either way. Yeah, come on. Lying on two of those things. Two of those things are true. One lying, two of those things are true. I'm definitely an alcoholic. Definitely an alcoholic. Functioning alcoholic. Let's be honest. I managed to kind of run 3 or be a part of 3 YouTube channels. I've got 3 other businesses. I got, I do okay. I'm up at 5 a.m. most days starting work, so I have to talk to Australian clients and that. So when I'm having a drink at midday, it's the equivalent of like 3 o'clock in the afternoon for a lot of people, which is still too early. But it is what it is. It is what it is. Sean, I've been called everything from a communist to a friend of Boris Johnson. I can't be both, but it tells you more about them. 100%, mate. Like, listen, those words have been diluted, mate. Like, everyone is just throwing around slanderous accusations. I personally just think that geezer, the hippie, is... how do I say this in the nicest possible way? I don't know him. He doesn't know me. But from what I've seen of him, I feel sorry. I feel sorry for him because I think he's clearly really just an unhappy human being. I think he's just a very, very unhappy guy who, just wants to push out hatred on the world and then pretend like he's doing it, or that he's on the right side of history or whatever, or the right side of good behavior. Good luck to him. It doesn't bother me at all. Doesn't bother me. But at the same time, though, I would encourage him to realize that there are people out there that it does affect, and it's not nice, man. It's not nice. It's just not nice behavior, is it? Appreciate you, AJ. Appreciate you. Hotspur hippie gone Hotspur hoodie. Is he into knife crime or something? Is he? I don't care, mate. It doesn't bother me at all. Like, it's irrelevant stuff, really. When I went on to that show, that LJ Spurs guy, I didn't know him. But Saba was going on, and Saba was talking about the accusations. And obviously, I used to work in the game, right? I used to work for Google through their partner program and stuff. So I'm familiar with how all of these things work. And I just thought I'd offer a little bit of insight into the kind of rationale as to the accusations, whether do they hold water, and they don't. And that's another geezer. That guy, whatever his name is, Johnny. Again, don't know him. He doesn't know me. But again, whatever, man. If people think that and I'm sure that they've all worked out, right, that when they put a video out talking about Tottenham, they get 10 views, and when they put a video out talking about Tottenham creators, they get 10 times those views. To pretend like it's not obvious why they're doing it. It's a combination of just really being unhappy about what they have and jealous of other people and wanting to pull down other people's work. That's amplified by the fact that those things get views. Whatever, man. Whatever. You do you. Don't bother me. But I know but it does bother some of my friends. So like that's why I think it's a little bit silly. I just think it's dangerous. It's dangerous to be throwing around slurs, like just horrible words that if they were on the receiving end of it, they would hate it. But they're happy to do it and somehow justify it in their own mind. Whatever, do what you want. I can give a fuck. What's that about Change for Tottenham, Rain? Will I see you at the Change for Tottenham protest tomorrow, Sean? It's not a protest, is it? It's just at the pub, isn't it? It's just a drink up. Which is my kind of protest, to be entirely honest, Rain. But listen, I might go. I might pop in. I'm not a massive fan of that pub, though. That pub's it's a nightmare to get to. It's the other side of where I come into Tottenham, and it's not really my sort of I'm not a fan of the Bill Nick personally of all the pubs, but I might pop in. However, what I will say is, as I said about 20 minutes ago, for me, Change for Tottenham, if they thought that their job was done or whatever, and they wanted to park their energy for a little while, I will support 100% to the point where I'm actually not just support and push the narrative, but actually join the momentum. If these Lewis kids are continuing to pretend like there's a new dawn at Tottenham, that they're in charge and it was all Daddy and Daniel's fault, and let's rephrase and reframe the entire narrative of who it is that's in charge of Tottenham. Well, now that we know the colour of certain people's money and how much money they actually wanted to put in, and that whole blueprint, Tottenham 3.0, that's all legit, or at least to a degree it is. Martin Lipton, fair play to you for getting the scoop. Well, if they're going to reject that and then try and pretend like 100 million quid as an injection of capital that dilutes the shareholders, by the way, is somehow an equilibrium. There is somehow that, like, this is our demonstration of ambition. Don't worry about that. Or conversely, they reject this, and then if there is some sort of direction of continued conversations, but they want more money to walk away, which comes out of the club's, that 1.2 billion fund that would be getting pushed into what we want, which is things that matter to our team, then I'll join the protests against the kids. I will. I never had a problem with it before because I was on board with organic. But now that that's not the case, and now that they're getting the wall's getting pulled over everybody's eyes, I'm not going to stand for that. And this isn't just Butler being a contrarian and always wanting to be on the opposite side of populism. No, I'm just an independent thinker. I think for myself, and if it means I'll be on this side 1 minute, and when new information comes to light, I will reflect and realign my own thoughts. And right now, I call bullshit on all of those Lewis Children's entities. I don't like the fact that Vinay's playing the game, and that even Thomas Frank is playing the game with the word, that, like, the way that the words are being used. It's a load of bollocks, in my opinion. And if this geezer and his crew were willing to do that sort of number, look, there's only one word for it, for ENIC, for the kids, and that's greed. If they're turning down 27%, 23%, whatever it is, above the most outrageously over the top valuations of Tottenham Hotspur anyway, then you better put your hand in your pocket. And I don't mean 100 million quid. That's like, stepdad, or that's like the parents getting divorced, right? And the dad says, I'll buy you, I don't know, a new bike. And the mum saying, no, you will not do that. And the son getting upset and saying, don't worry, your new daddy's going to put his hand in his pocket, and he gives you a fucking £10 action figure and pretends like that's the equivalent. It isn't. It's not. Okay, we need to keep our eyes on the prize here, guys. We need to keep our eyes on the prize. And I'm happy to join Change for Tottenham in that. I'm happy to get on board a contrarian mindset, if that's how it's being considered. People think I'm a contrarian. I disagree. 100%. It's not greed. It's mental to refuse that offer. 100%. 100%. Listen, let me see if... I'll tell you what we're going to do. I need a wee. Guys, I'm going to end it off. We've been going for an hour and 40. I appreciate you all. It's been a wonderful show. Really enjoyed it. But I'm going to keep talking for another 3 minutes, but then I'm going to send you over to Football Inc. Okay? And I'm going to speak to Johnny in the meantime. The show's scheduled to start in 10 minutes, but I'm going to see if we can move it forward a few minutes so I don't keep you waiting and don't lose you. If you want to come over and hear Johnny's take on the whole thing, we've got loads more to talk about. Just bear with me. I got to go for a wee. The dog's going mental about something downstairs. So I will see you in a little while. If Bugsy does want to walk, you can hear her, right? You can hear her. Apologies about that. They've only had 12 hours to digest it, so they're not going to accept it unconditionally. I'm not saying that, Reese. I'm not saying that they can't. I'm just saying that if it's rejected, like, we are not for sale, end of, that's fine. But we now know the alternative, and we know the ambitions of the alternative parties, and they at least are thinking about the fans and what's good for what we care about, not about property, all those things. This is where I'll agree with Lubo and that, For the most part, all of the plans has been fantastic. Daniel Levy did a great job making us a financial behemoth. He did. He got us into the position where this sort of thing can happen. He built a great stadium. We got us to the brink of where an ambitious owner can then launch us. And these guys look like they want to do that. And it's fine if you want to reject it, but you don't get to reject it and then try and like placate us with essentially 8% of the injection of capital that the alternative would have provided, and at the same time push a propaganda message that you want what the fans want. Either you don't want what the fans want, or if you do, and you're going to reject that offer, which is already massively, massively over the top of any reasonable valuation, then you better put your hand in your pocket to demonstrate something in the same vein. And if you don't, then now that we know that the comparables are there, then for me, I'm happy to march in favour of those kinds of protests. 100%. So over to Enoch, over to the Lewises, over to the new majority owners. If you're going to reject that shit, we now know the comps. We know the comparables. So put up or fuck off. Or we march. Guys, I will leave it there. But stay where you are. I'm going to go for a piss. I'm going to text Johnny and say, can we go 5 minutes early? And then we'll get into Football Link and we'll carry on the conversation. Appreciate you all. And by the way, appreciate everyone with the super chats. Absolutely insanely generous from all of you today. Thank you so much to Blaine, to Joe, to Rowan. Did I call Rowan's out? I did call Rowan's out. Yeah. To Drew for the unbelievable loyalty from the guys with the membership comments as well. So many months on there. To Daniel Field, to Dean Law, to AU, to Tony for the new membership. For the 17th time, to Blaine for the gifted stuff. Love you all. Absolutely awesome show. We're going to continue the chat over on Football Inc. in just a few minutes. I'll send you over there now, and we'll start the show early if we have to. Bear with me, guys. Thanks, everyone. Like, subscribe, and comment. And as always, come on, Enoch, money in your pocket or bye.